creators, how are you guys? It's great to hang out with you for this episode, another Video Creators Podcast episode, where we're going to talk about how do we grow on YouTube, how do we build our audience, how do we make more money on this platform, more views, more subscribers, more money, but ultimately doing all those things so we can reach more people and change their lives with the value that we are providing to the world. And I am so excited to dive into this with you guys here today, because that is our topic, is about how do you plan for a successful 2020 on YouTube? What metrics do you start looking at? What decisions do you start making because of those metrics? And how should you track all of it? Those are the things I want to get into with you guys here today. And I'm excited to do this because my team and I here at Video Creators have been taking this very seriously lately for our business, and we're investing more resources into tracking results for our clients and not just kind of like, hey, here's some good information, good luck, and hope this works out for you. One of our core values here, we have three external core values. One of them is mission-oriented, 2, people first, and 3, results-driven. So people, it's all is about people. Like for us, it's like not about views, money, subscribers, like whatever. All those things we see as tools to reach people and change their life. And 2, it's mission oriented. That means like for us, this is about doing something that actually is going to impact those people. We have some sort of mission behind what we're trying to do with our business and with our YouTube channel and the content that we're making for this target audience of people. And then 3, results driven means like we actually want this to make a difference. It's not like we just want to be like, let's talk about some good ideas here. No, the things that we talk about here in Videos Creators are things that we have tried, we have tested, we have been doing with our clients who are often flexible enough to be used as guinea pigs. So I'm thankful for that. And that's all this is based on that. Okay. But I want you as a listener to the podcast, a listener to the podience who's out there, or if you're on the live stream with us right now at youtube.com/video creators, wherever you're at, I want you, through what we're doing here, to become people first, mission oriented, and of course, results driven. And what we're going to focus on here today is the results driven part of that. Okay. So we are YouTube creators, and we are fortunate that YouTube gives us more data than we probably know what to do with. In fact, that is becoming an increasingly common question I hear is, Tim, what do I do next on my channel based on the analytics, based on data? They gave me like this pile, this mountain of data, and I don't really know what to do with it. I know it's important. I know there's some really good stuff in here, but how do I actually use all this data as a tool other than like, oh, that's interesting, I guess my watch time went up, or that's interesting, that number of people clicked on that, or that's interesting, my end screen's got like, what do you actually do with that information? Well, we're not going to go through all of it because that would be like probably like a week to go in depth into everything. So what we're going to do is just kind of hit high level. What are some of the top things as you guys are planning for 2020 that you really need to focus on and think about on your channel and track in order to make data-driven results and get like the results that you want. So we're going to dive into that. Now, this is probably going to be part of a bigger series of podcast episodes and live streams I want to do with you guys. It's not going to be just this one episode. We're going to talk about the data side of this and the analytics side, but we also have upcoming episodes planned on like the planning side and the project management side of your YouTube channel and the business around it, and setting objectives and reading and hitting those key results and a lot of different things like that. So this is going to be an ongoing series, but I'll start this off with the analytics side of how do you grow a successful YouTube channel in 2020 in terms of this mountain of data that we have. So let's dive into that. Before we do so, though, I want to thank those of you. We got several of you guys signed up to be moderators, and I know you've been working with my producer, Trina, to really help with that and get these questions in front of me. So thank you so much for being a part of that team and being willing to dedicate some of your time to making sure that this goes smoothly. And so today, our moderator is Lara Barajas from Overall Buddies. It's her YouTube channel. And it's an educational channel with a lot of nursery rhymes and songs for young children. Laura is actually an early childhood trainer and speaker. So if you guys have little ones that you want to turn on to some good content, check out Laura, Overall Buddies on YouTube. Thank you, Laura, for helping us out here today. So we will dive into your questions of you in the chat, and I see a lot of your questions that are on highly controversial issues right now, like the new terms of service and emojis and things like that. Really good questions, and we will probably dive into those in a different format. Here, let's keep the questions on topic, and Laura, the new Laura, because the previous producer was Laura, will get those questions in front of me, and we will answer them the best that we can. Cool? So let's dive into this. So when you guys are looking at growing your channels and you want to start tracking results and data for this, there's a couple different places you should start. And I like to start at the high level of like, what are we actually trying to accomplish here with this channel? Because you can look at the data, and I think sometimes the reason why the data just kind of like feels overwhelming and confusing is because we don't even really know which lens we're supposed to be looking at this through. Other than like, I want to grow my channel, something pretty broad, generic. But if we don't know what's growing our channel or how to grow the channel, then what we're looking at doesn't make sense. So we're going to fix some of that for you here today. But you need to really start with like, number one, these are my objectives that I'm trying to accomplish. And not like, I think you do need to have like one really big objective, but you should also have some like smaller objectives. Like, what can I do this month or this quarter, in the next 3 months or something like that? And you should really break it down into being a little bit more manageable like that. And then having some things that you can practically do that you think will get you towards that objective or that result. And then doing things that actually are measurable and actually like you can see, so one would be, maybe if you are like 3% more watch time. Okay, so 3% more watch time. What are the things you're going to do that are actually measurable that are going to get you to that goal? And let's think those out. So that is where I usually start, because I find that when I dive into the analytics without some clear ideas of what my goal is, I just kind of end up looking at a lot of numbers and I kind of think a lot, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. And I'm kind of going there a little directionless. And then as soon as you do that, you feel directionless when you get in there because there's a lot to look at. So set that up first. Now, we're not going to go too deeply into right now, like how do you do that and how do you set those goals and objectives. We will be talking about that in a future episode. And I think it's going to be really, really, really significant for you guys. So you should definitely look for that episode. It's coming. But in the meantime, today, let's talk about when we actually get into the data, what should we be looking for if the goal revolves around channel growth with more views and more subscribers, more exposure, better discoverability, converting people into loyal customers, whether it is getting people to fall in love with our brand or just brand lift and exposure overall. Those are all very different things, obviously, but that's kind of a broad sweep where we're going to be going with some of the metrics that we're going to be talking about here. Now, before I dive into them, I just think it's really important. I guess I don't think I know. It's really important that you don't obsess over the numbers. I have seen so many creators who will dive into their numbers every single day. And they're just obsessing over how many subscribers did I get today? How many more views did I get? And like, oh, wow, that video lost 2 subscribers. What's going on? Oh, now it gained 10. Like, oh, wow, it's lost 2. Like, man, that is an emotional roller coaster. And I'm not saying the numbers are important. Obviously, like we're having a whole discussion here that revolves around the numbers and around the analytics. But don't obsess over them. Instead, what you should obsess over is you should obsess over the thing that those numbers represent, which are people, right? Don't obsess over numbers, obsess over people, because every number represents a real person who's giving you an opportunity to speak into their life. And our question here at Video Creators is, what are you doing with that opportunity to reach people, change their lives, make an impact while still growing your business and serving people even better than you ever have before? So if you are publishing, like say weekly videos, I know it's really easy to keep checking, especially if you're publishing like more than weekly, like you're always in there and it's, always checking your Social Blade stats or always checking your YouTube analytics and trying to see like what's moving the needle. But when you're looking at the mural, like with your nose pressed against the wall, it's really hard, if not impossible, to kind of remember, like get a good look at the big picture. And a perfect example of this would be like, hey, like my channel has been growing. It's awesome. Like, what? This is amazing. And then all of a sudden, like, hey, this new video I just published, why is it only getting, it only got half the number of views. Oh, my next video only got a quarter of the number of views I normally get. Oh, this video only got an eighth. Like, why are my videos declining? I just published 3 videos in a row, and for some reason, none of the videos are performing very well. What's going on? It's easy to start freaking out, right? And then that's when I see in all the Facebook groups of creators are in, guys, a little parenthetical thought. Well, let me not get sidetracked. Yeah, the Facebook groups where sometimes there's a lot of people sharing good ideas that are only good ideas and not actually how things work practically. Sometimes it turns into a lot of people pulling their ignorance together. So I don't mean that to insult anyone. I just kind of like want to just be like, it's not uncommon for me to see those types of posts in there where everything's dying. My channel's like, and then you see all these people saying, has there been an algorithm shift lately? Like I haven't changed anything. And now YouTube is going down the tubes, and you get into like really weird conclusions because people are looking at their analytics with their nose pressed against that wall of like the mural, right? And they lose sight of the big picture. And we just worked with a creator recently who had that kind of freak out going on, and did a YouTube channel consultation with us, with our team. We looked at the data with them. We backed up and we said, hold on a second. Let's compare year over year here. First of all, your eighth of the views right now are still twice the views you were getting this time last year. So you're still net positive going in the right direction. But furthermore, we saw that there was a common seasonality. When we started using the compare tool in your YouTube studio and your analytics, and we compared year over year, every single year, the exact dip happens at the same time of year, right? So we could say comfortably like, hey, this is going to come back. This is not an algorithm switch. This is not like, this is just seasonality on your channel. And thankfully that person's like, oh, okay, good. Thank you. Like, whew, I thought the algorithm was against me. Like, no, you just forgot or didn't notice it last year because your numbers were so much smaller last year. You didn't notice this type of seasonality, but when we overlay the graph, then it makes sense, right? So if you're so sometimes taking this big picture approach can be really helpful rather than obsessing over the analytics day after day. If those of you guys in the chat, I want to hear from you. Just raise your hand or use the hand emoji or something saying like, if you check your YouTube stats more than once a day, raise your hand in chat. I want to see how many of you guys are guilty of this. So yeah, I want to encourage you guys. This is kind of like my rhythm for YouTube stats, and part of it is because I'm just super busy working on client stuff that sometimes I don't always have the time to work on my own stuff. So that's, just to be totally honest, that's part of it. Sometimes I feel like the car mechanic who drives the clunky car because they spend all their time working on other people's cars and don't end up working on their own as much as they probably want to. So I feel that sometimes, but still overall, this is kind of our rhythm. I say if you're publishing weekly, I would say you should obsess over the numbers about once a quarter. And you should really dive in, and there goes all the hands. Whew, a little delay on the chat there, but yeah, guilty. RV Odd Couple, Susanna, Corbin, Justin, Live Life and Explore, Patty, Excel, Pete, Utah's SEO Ninja, everyone, yeah. I'm glad we're all at least being honest. Alice Action English says, guilty multiple times a day. Lily Tree says, now I feel the urge to go check my stats. James and Mark are guilty. Okay. RV Odd Couple, which is Mercedes and John. Good to see you guys. They say only one. They only do it once a day. Okay. Good for you guys. So I would recommend that if you're publishing weekly, that you would obsess over your numbers once a quarter. And so that's 4 times a year. Every 3 months, do a deep dive. Revisit your data on a high level once a month. During that in-between season, you are actually running an experiment, a test. We have like, based on the data that you're looked at, you're like, okay, this is, I think, where, and I'm going to give you some ideas of where you should look here in a second, but this is what we see, I feel like is like, if we could change this one number and grow it by like 3%, that would have this ripple effect and have all this other impact on our channel and our business. Let's spend the next quarter figuring out how do we tackle that. And come up with some ideas, and then you're going to run those experiments. And you got 3 months. If you're publishing 1 video a week, in this example, then you have approximately 12-ish videos to really dive into and run that experiment. Or you have 2 experiments. You could do one experiment with 6 and another on the other 6 and see which one works better, right? And so if you're just do that idea once and that one video doesn't take off and you're like, oh, it doesn't, that was a bomb, it didn't work out. Well, maybe not. Maybe it was just that the thumbnail was really bad, or the hook wasn't really connected to the opening title and thumbnail, or something like that. Like maybe there's just something else going on. So you can't do it just once and then jump to a conclusion. You got to do this several times. And one of the most powerful tools in your YouTube analytics that most people don't use and you totally should is the groups feature. Okay, so if you're looking at your studio and on your computer, I'm going to do it on my computer, make sure I walk you guys through the exact thing. So you go to studio.youtube.com, and when you're there, on the left sidebar, click on Analytics. And when you're in Analytics, there's this graph, this chart right in front of you. It's kind of like in your Overview tab. If you look at the top, down at the bottom of that graph, you'll see a link that says See More. You click on See More, and it'll open up that chart and make it super big and show you a lot more detail. In the upper left corner, then, you click on your channel name. And when you click on your channel name, a little drop down appears. By clicking on your channel name isn't completely obvious. It's just you gotta go there and click on it. And then when the drop down appears, you'll see a little tab there called Groups. And then when you click on Groups, if you haven't made them before, it'll be blank, but you'll see a link down at the bottom that says Create New Group. Now what a group does is it lets you groups videos together and then compare different groups to different groups. So for example, let's say you wanted to test an idea with different types of thumbnails. And you're like, oh, does it make more sense for me to use text or to not use text on my thumbnails with my audience? So you create a group of video, you create a group, and you're like, maybe you title the group Thumbnails with Text. And then the next group you create is Thumbnails without text. And then you group your experimental videos you place them in each of those groups. Kind of works like a playlist, but not really. It's inside of your analytics. So don't think playlist is a group. And then you can use the Compare To button, which is in the upper right corner then, of what you would be looking at on your screen. You see that Compare To button on that graph. And you can compare group with thumbnails, with photo text, without text, and see oh, wow, overall, if I don't use text, I get about an average of 28% more watch time or click-through rates or impressions or whatever, right? You say, oh, okay, so that's really helpful for me to know. So using those groups is a really strong, powerful tool. And based on what we see in those groups is how we decide this quarter, this is what we're focusing on our channel. We're going to run these tests, these experiments, and we're not getting into the data every single day. We are going to try this and see what happens. And then, so we do that about once a quarter. And then about once a month, we'll get in and just do a quick check, make sure nothing has bombed or is tanked or something's going completely awry or something's taking off that we really need to respond to. So we will definitely do a deeper check once a month. And then my producer, not a deep check, that happens once a quarter, but we'll kind of do a check-in once a month. And then we will, my producer checks in a little bit more often just to kind of see if anything's taken off and do we need to stay on top of that or do a follow-up or something like that. Okay. So don't obsess over the numbers, obsess over people, not numbers, because that's everything algorithm-wise and everything with search and discovery and everything with channels that grow. All the data revolves around how are people responding to this content. So if you want to grow your channel, focus on the person, not on the robot. Focus on the thing that the robot is measuring, not on the actual analytic or metric itself. Okay. So what are some of these things? Where would you get started? And then I'm gonna dive into some questions here. A couple things that where I would start my focus if I were you is in terms of channel growth. Number one, and is that thumbnail, title, click-through rate, and impressions. Super important, okay? Now, you can't look at just one of those in isolation. You have to look at the impressions and the click-through rate. So sometimes people look at just one or the other. So, and you can't. You're not getting a full picture. It's coming up with an analogy off the top of my head. It's I'm thinking this because of last night. It's like having pizza with only dough. I don't know. That's stupid. But you get the idea. All right. You can't look at just just impressions or just click-through rate, and then come to like, oh, my click-through rate is so high. Why doesn't YouTube promote me more? You have to look at that in the context of other things. We've talked about this a little bit in more depth in the past. In fact, we've had entire episodes dedicated to just click-through rates and impressions, so you can go back and listen to those if you'd like. But what it boils down to is that it also depends on the appeal of your video. If you have a video that has very broad appeal, you're going to have high impressions and probably low click-through rate. If you have a video of very narrow appeal, you're probably going to have very high click-through rate with low impressions, right? Now, obviously, we all want high impressions, high click-through rates, but typically the broader the appeal, the more the impressions, the lower the click-through rate. It's just kind of how it works. So the goal isn't to be like, is that a good metric or is that bad? Like, am I good or am I doing bad? Like, because that's everyone wants to know, like, am I doing good at this or not? And the problem is if I tell you you're doing good, then you relax and you don't change anything. If I tell you you're doing bad, then you're like, how do I improve? So I would just always ask yourself, how do I do this better? If my click-through rate is at 2.8%, how do we get that click-through rate up to 3% by the end of the quarter? And start experimenting. You got 12 videos if you're publishing once a week to run some tests and try out some ideas and see what works. So look at the title, thumbnail, click-through rates, and impressions, and combine those two metrics together, along with what you understand that video to be about. And so, like, for example, just today, my producer, Trina, sent me a report about here's what we've seen in October on your channel. And one of the things that stood out to me and she made a note of this too, was that, what was it? I just lost my train of thought. There was one video that I thought was really good, but it had the click-through rate on it was really low and the abandonment was pretty high on the beginning of the video in terms of retention. And so I'm like, I know in my head that this is an anomaly. It's not like all the videos like that. Like that video follows all the same principles we've learned before in terms of what should work and what gets results. And so there's something else going on here with that video. And so we looked, I just figured, like, I know that's a good video and I know the experiment I did on this particular video. And if you guys want to know what I'm talking about, it's my channel trailer currently, because I don't really have a good one. I just put that one there. And maybe you saw on my channel, it's a video about where Lennon and Delana, who are both YouTube strategists who work with our clients on my team, the three of us sat down and we answered the 50 top most common YouTube questions we get in 6 minutes. Boom. We just cranked through those super fast. And it was a lot of fun, but we didn't set it up with a hook. My experiment I was running is, what if the title and thumbnail function as the hook, and we just dive straight into the content. As soon as someone clicks play, they're getting exactly what they click for. Not like, hey guys, this is Lennon, this is Delana, and today we're going to dive into the most common questions on YouTube that you ask, and we're going to do it, and blah, blah, blah. Like, rather, like, people are like, I already know that. I saw the title and thumbnail, that's why I clicked. Just give me the info. But so that was the experiment we were doing on that one. And so I thought, like, well, maybe what difference because the title and thumbnail is good, but it doesn't quite fit the opening seconds. So I asked my producer, like, can we make a different title, different thumbnail for this? Because I think the content's good, but we looked at the data and we saw that this video is performing lower than normal. And so, and we do this on a once a month level, right? She sent me the report, and that's where we got. It wasn't like I'm tracking this in real time and I'm staying up late watching it go up and down and biting my fingernails the whole time. And so it's like, yeah, it's been up for maybe like 2 weeks now. And like, hey, that video is underperforming compared to where I think it should be based on all the other videos that we've done and what this type of video normally should do based on click-through rates and impressions. So let's change it up. Okay. So that might be like a super actionable thing you can get from that metric. I got to go through the rest of these a little quicker. Your questions are stacking up and they're really good. Okay. So, and just to jump into some of them, like one right now, Corbin Lafon asked, do the analytics mean much when you're still under 100 subscribers? Absolutely. They do. They do. And I know you're like, I don't have much data. That's when you should probably lean more on the information that you're learning from me here at Video Creators and other YouTube educators in my space who are teaching you best practices and principles. I'm often learning from the channels that we're working with. So it's not typically just my channel. It's a variety of different contexts and creators and experiments that we're kind of keeping our eye on, like overall, that everyone's kind of testing. And then I kind of bring the best practices back to you. And I can say, since we are people first, results driven, mission oriented, like if that is you, you want the results, this is what we are seeing is consistently getting results. Try this. So Corbin, I would start with this type of information that you're getting right now. So start with a title and thumbnail, click-through rates, and impressions. The second thing is your audience retention graphs. You hear me talk about that a lot, so I'm not going to dive in too much here, but literally this is the tool that's going to tell you exactly how people are responding to every single piece of content on your channel. And I don't mean like on a high level, although you can do it on a high level. I mean on like an individual video level. And the goal here is to look for patterns. What caused abandonment? What kept retention? So for example, I did a video also this past month in October where it was a sponsored video where I gave you guys a studio tour of my new setup, and it was sponsored by TechSmith. And so we looked at the retention on that, and we noticed that the audience declines pretty rapidly, unfortunately, in that video. And it's because I didn't open it with a strong enough connection to the title and thumbnail. So there's a high abandonment. But then we see the graph go up again as soon as I start vlogging, and people can see that it's a different camera angle and there's more motion. It's like handheld instead of being on the tripod. And as soon as I start because I open the videos in front of a tripod just talking, and then I switch to a vlog type of feel and I show people more a raw type of behind the scenes. As soon as we switch to that, retention went up. And so my discussion this morning with my producer was like, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean like, is it really just this production style that people like, or was there some sense of like anticipation that started here, or maybe it was like a little less predictable, or felt a little bit more conversational as opposed to like presentational or something? Like what's the principle here that we need to continue to test? Because something happened here in this graph and where it went back up again. So we want to know what that is, right? So you can only get that from watching patterns in your audience retention. A third thing you should track, and this is going to sound weird, but again, we did a whole episode just a few weeks ago about this, is end screen elements shown. Because when you track end screen elements shown, you are basically evaluating how many people got to the end of my video. You're not looking overall like how many people liked it or anything like that. You're looking at like the number of people who clicked play, what percentage of those people got to the end and saw an end screen. That's the best way to track that. And so that helps me craft my content, because not only does that impact higher retention, audience retention, but it also tells me how many people are even getting to my call to action at the end. Especially if you're a business owner, you're making your content for the goal of getting people to this call to action, and you're not even paying attention to like, are people even getting there? Then you kind of just like made a really good piece of content and they're missing your CTA. So I think it's really important that we track that and spend a lot of time focusing on how do I craft my videos better in order to get more of the people who click play to the end. And then the next metric after that is that you track is, and then how many of those people can we get to click on my end screen to another video? And that is the metric in your YouTube studio is end screen click-through rate. And when you are tracking the end screen click-through rate, then that is when you can see exactly like we got some people to the end, and now the click-through rate is this percentage. And we've done a lot of testing on this. And again, I've got previous episodes that go into all this and previous live streams. And if you're listening to the podcast, I will try to put links to all those in the show notes so you guys can go check this out if you'd like and catch up on some of those episodes that take a deeper dive into each of these metrics. So end screen elements shown, end screen click-through rates. And the reason that matters is because the more that happens, the more watch time you're getting on your videos, and the more people that you are getting to watch more of your content, or even if it's not your content on the end screen, even if it's someone else's video you're putting there and recommending, it still helps your video because you are increasing the viewing session of your channel and all your videos overall. The next metric and I kind of teased this already, but the next one I would keep an eye on is compare your year-over-year growth. Really keep an eye on that seasonality, because that becomes more and more of an issue when people are just getting distracted by being their face pressed against the wall. And comparing year-over-year growth is really helpful. I realized this with my own business, not just YouTube channel, business overall. What was it, like 6 weeks ago now, something like that. We had our annual team retreat, and everyone on my team, not everyone, almost everyone, I think 7 of them flew out here, and we had a team retreat here at my house for 2 days. And I hired this consultant guy to come and help us kind of figure out like better objectives for our quarters and better key results, and kind of help our team get on the same page with a lot of things, which is great. It's super rewarding and definitely worth it. But one of the first things this guy had us do is we were all sitting in this room in my house, and he put these Post-it notes on the wall all the way from like for the past year. There's like a month, so January all the way up through, what month are we in now? November? This was in October. So it was October 2019 all the way back to October 2018. And he gave us all Post-it note pads and Sharpies. He's like, write everything you can remember that happened in that month. And we're like, ooh, okay. And we're like trying to think back to April. What happened in April? We're like going back into our phones and kind of like looking through our calendar. Oh yeah, that client reached that milestone. Wrote that down. Put it there like, oh yeah, that was the day I was hired or passed my 3-month trial or like whatever, right? And everything that like went up there. And what stood out to me was that most of this team have been with me for several years. So it's not like some of them have been here for less than a year. But if we looked at like the distribution of Post-it notes across the walls in terms of what's been happening on our business, the previous month, like this was in October. So, what was that? September. September was like covered. Everyone could remember what happened last month, the good, bad, the ugly, and everything in between. And then there was a little bit fewer the month before that, which is August, right? I'm doing this backwards. And then fewer in October and July. And by the time we got around to like January, there's like only 2 Post-it notes. And it was a good testament to me. Like we really only remember the most recent things we've been focusing on, and we lose sight of the big picture. But when we did this, the exercise was different. My team and I, as we sat back and were like, wow, we accomplished a lot this year. Where we started that meeting thinking like, man, we're slipping, we're losing ground, we are not doing this well, and this is a struggle, and focusing on all those things. But when you take a step back, it's really encouraging. Be like, look at all we accomplished. I didn't even think about it from this perspective before. Like that is so much. And I think the same thing is true on our YouTube channel. When we're just going like video to video, looking at video to video, we lose sight of the big picture, and you start comparing year over year growth. You can be like, whoa, like this time last year, I was doing 500,000 views a month. Now I'm doing 2 million views a month, but I still feel like I'm struggling, right? You're like, no, you're killing it. That's great. You quadrupled your growth in 1 year. Those are really good numbers. So yeah, compare year over year growth and just keep sight of that bigger picture, and don't just get frustrated with like my team and I were just like, oh my gosh, all this good stuff is happening, all this bad stuff is happening. You just focus on what's in front of you, and you lose sight of how much progress you really did make over the course of a year. And then the last thing I would recommend before we dive here into questions is make sure that you, like we talked, put each of your months. Now we talk about using groups in terms of like comparing thumbnails with titles, thumbnails without text, or opening hooks versus no opening hooks. Like you can compare anything you want. But one of the things that we're tracking on our team is just how did the videos we published in the previous month help us reach our goals, okay? And so I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys here, because I want you to see the value of this, but I'm gonna, some of my dirty laundry here. We put all of the videos from October into a group in our analytics. And we do that each month, so we can kind of see like, this is what we published in October, and this is what we published in September, and like, how do we gain traction in October over September? And because what the temptation is, if you just keep looking at your data from a high level, you feel like your channel is continually growing, and it probably is. But it's sometimes because you got like 1 or 2 heavy hitter videos on your channel that are just bringing in like 99% of the traffic into your channel, and every new video you're publishing is actually having a negative effect. And that's our story. That's why we keep track of something like this. Every video I published in the month of October, not one of them netted positive in subscribers. Every single one of them costs us subscribers. And so my question to my producer is like, what ideas do you have for how we're going to like change this around? How can we start publishing content that actually nets positive subscribers rather than, yes, our channel is growing and it's easy just to kind of look at the overview and feel like we're in a healthy spot. But the month of October was not in a healthy spot because every piece of content we publish, like our diehard people, most of you guys who are in the live stream, like you guys all watched it. And it looks like it got like normal number of views, but when we isolate that month and look at it by itself, we have quite a bit of turnover going, right? Which is normal for educational channels in some regard, and especially in my audience where a lot of people start creating YouTube channels, discover how hard it is, and then quit like 1 or 2 months later. But sometimes they unsubscribe, sometimes they don't, you know. So there's a unique, maybe a little bit more of a unique thing going on here. But because we're looking at each month by itself and stripping away all the other data, putting it into a group, we can see that the videos we published last month are actually not helping us, even though our channel is still growing. Okay, so put each month into a group and compare them month over month as well, and try to figure out how do you turn around what's not working. It also helps you spot anomalies, whether it be good or bad. I shared with you a bad anomaly that we discovered today in terms of like that was a good video, but the impressions and click-through rates, or the impressions were fine. But the click-through rate was really low, so that means we just probably need to update that title and thumbnail or something else. So those are the things I would start with to really give you some practical ideas of how do you start using the data to grow. A couple questions we had here. RV Odd Couple, and I start with a member question. So those of you guys who are channel members, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys and your support. So RV Odd Couple is a member, and they're actually going through Video Labs right now as well. So it's fun to hang out with them every week. If you could only look at one metric in analytics daily, what would it be? Hi, Tim. Hi, John and Mercedes. I don't look at any metrics daily, but if I had, you said could. You said if you could only look. I wouldn't look at any of them daily. The most I would do would be like weekly if you're publishing weekly. If you're publishing daily, then maybe there's a reason why you might need to get into it more often. But if you were going to look at something daily, it would just be your real-time analytics. And the only reason I'm suggesting that is so you can keep an eye on if something on your channel starts taking off. Then you could like make a follow-up video to that really quickly. Hopefully that becomes a suggested video and you start getting the spin-off traffic off of that main video that's taking off. So that would probably be where I go with that. Tronics Fix, also a member. Tronics Fix, you've been a member for over a year now. Man, thank you so much. Mr. B said at VidSummit he mostly watches 3 metrics: click-through rate, average view duration, and average watch time. How do you feel about this? I think that's great. Yeah, those are kind of ones I beat around the bush in other ways. Obviously, I hit click-through rate. But you have to watch that with impressions, like I said. Average view duration is okay. The way I look about that is I think it's more important to look at how many people got to the end and of the video, and that kind of also covers average watch time. So, which is what he watches instead of views. A lot of people just look at their views, but it's more accurate and more helpful to watch your average watch time instead of your average views. So I think that's what he's doing. I think the thing that Mr. Beast has going for him is that he tells a story so freaking well. Like the title and thumbnail just screams like, what the heck happens here? Or what happens next? Or that really, like it just creates so much tension in the brain that the brain needs to have that tension resolved when they see that title and thumbnail. And so they click. And so he does that really, really, really well. And then if you pay attention, like the way he opens his videos are exactly tied into that title and thumbnail and gets you straight into like the conflict, the tension of like, how's that going to work? Or how's that going to work out? Or is that really what's going to happen? Or how's his friend going to react when he finds out about this? And there's a lot of there's one big tension over the whole piece of the content, but then there's all these like little micro ones that kind of just keep you hooked to keep watching and keep watching and keep watching. And he's so smart with a lot of that stuff. So I don't know how much of that he's doing on purpose, but he does a really good job at that. So yeah, I think if you focus on those 3 things, it would be better than nothing, which is what a lot of people focus on, or they try to focus on everything. Pete Rondo, when looking at audience retention graphs, how above average does the video need to be for the algorithm to get excited? I don't care about the algorithm getting excited. I care about, do people get excited? And I know like you're like, okay, damn, yeah, roll your eyes and be like, but and I get that. So I just look at it differently. Like I look at the audience retention graphs not to figure out is the algorithm going to get excited, but that is an indicator of how people think about your video, not how the algorithm thinks. And so even if I was to tell you, hey, if you get above 65% above average, then your algorithm's going to get excited. You're going to shoot for 65% above average, which is not at all what you should be focused on. You should be focused on how do I best serve these people, put people first and deliver this mission, this value that I want to provide to them, and then use the retention graphs to figure out, am I doing a good job at that or not? And so, but even I can't give you a number though, even if I could give you one, because it varies so much from industry to industry, niche to niche, audience to audience, and even geographic, like India versus US is different. So, and it also depends on how broad the appeal is of the video. So if it's a really broad appeal, you might have really high retention, high click-through rates, but the video doesn't get a lot of views and a lot of watch time because it's really narrow appeal. Like there's only 100 people on the planet who care about that video and all 100 of them watched it, right? So I can't give you a number because there's too many variables. I think you'll get to know over time as you study this stuff, what's average and normal for your channel, and then start how do you do experiments that moves the dial on how do you get this, one step higher or 2% growth here or 5% growth there, that type of thing. I just realized, like, I hope it didn't come across that way. I feel like I said that like I was angry or something. So if you felt like I was angry, I totally wasn't. I'm just getting excited and passionate about this because I hope this is like helping you guys get on the right track. John Spike explores, isn't the new YouTube monitor going to hurt the analytics? Like I'm hearing can't use, symmetry, abandoned, and even haunted in the title. Isn't that going to hurt? So the new YouTube monitor, let's kind of bring it back to, this is about people. Don't optimize for robots. Even YouTube is way smarter than like, and I know sometimes people get this like, hey, don't put this in your tags or don't put this in your title. If you put that in your title, YouTube's going to demonetize you. And maybe. But YouTube doesn't need your titles or your tags to figure out what's on your video. Like when you upload that video to YouTube and it has copyrighted material in it, you are going to be hit with a content ID match before that video is even done uploading, right? And you haven't even typed in anything. They already know what's in that content. And if you want to see examples of this, just go to or cloud.google.com/video-intelligence. Just search for Google Cloud Video Intelligence. It'd probably be easier. I have the URLs memorized because I do this demonstration with people where I'll show them like, look, just YouTube's going to, or Google is going to scan this video and they're going to tell you exactly what is in each of the frame by frame. They're going to show you exactly what's going on in this video. They don't need your tags. They don't need your title. And just because you don't put the word cemetery in it doesn't mean that YouTube doesn't know there's a cemetery in it. They're like, oh, you got us. They now it might be more likely to maybe get flagged to have cemetery in it, but it's because of the viewer signals, not because of the content, not because of the title itself. So I guess John Spikes Explorers on answer. I would use whatever titles serve people the best and most accurately describe your content. And even if your video gets demonetized, and I don't think it would be because of the title, I think it would be because of the content. But even if it does get demonetized, then at least it's like a good video that's going to serve people well, and it's going to hopefully be positioned well across YouTube and bring in more traffic and more subscribers who are going to watch other videos of yours, and you still grow your channel overall. History Treehouse. So my click-through rate for my official intro video I just put up is at 12.1%. Wow. But what are some other metrics I'm supposed to look at? Good question. Hopefully we answered that for you. 12.1 is for a trailer, unless you have a pretty narrow audience. So History Treehouse might be a pretty specific audience, and maybe that's why it's at 12. So Ryan Hogue, passive income. Would you recommend against using an end screen to help more viewers each their end of the video? No, I would not. I would definitely recommend using it. You just have to be more intentional with how you use it. And again, I have podcast episodes about this as well, about getting people to the end screen, and then don't use any ending language like, hey, hope this was helpful, or see you later, or anything like that. Just point to like the area on your screen where your next video is and be like, now the next thing you really need to know is how to optimize your videos for mobile viewing. And I put together a short playlist for you. It's going to help you do exactly that. Click right here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Just talk with the assumption they're going to keep going, and your click-through rates will definitely go up. Or if you're an entertainment channel, then sometimes we see it works best to do like a highly edited trailer of the next video you want someone to watch. And it's only like 5-10 seconds, something like that. And it's on the end, it's a little arrow pointing from the trailer to where the clickable space is it says watch here. And people can just click right there on that video and watch that next one. So yes, definitely use them to keep that viewing session going. But I would not recommend against it. Maths the Munir. What is the best click-through rate? It's just compete with yourself, whatever you think is the best for you and where you're at with your content. Like the one person at 12.1, some of us would be like 12.1. I'd never get higher than 2%. Like, what are they doing? And it's just like, might be because of their audience is like smaller and it's a super niche. And they're serving that really small audience really well, that they can get lower impressions and higher click-through rates. So it's not really like, you can't really look at anything. It's like, oh, this is the magic that they're doing on their channel that I'm missing on mine. It's just different numbers for different people. So what's going on? TD Hip Hop Media. Does posting in the community tab affect you negatively if your audience pays it no attention? No, I don't think it impacts you negatively. But if your audience is paying no attention, then that's probably a different issue I'd want to look at. That's probably a bigger culprit of what's happening on your channel in terms of like lack of growth. So it's the community. Let me kind of make it a little broader like this. Guys, there's no tools on your YouTube channel that's going to negatively impact your growth. Sometimes people say that about live stream. Don't live stream. Algorithm hates it. It's going to ruin your channel. No, the algorithm doesn't hate your live streams. The people might not like them, and thus the algorithm responds accordingly. But there's no tool that YouTube is designed to be like, hey, if you use this tool, it's like a secret button for killing your channel. It's not on there. So, but if the audience is paying no attention to it and you're seeing the same thing on your videos, then that might be something worth looking at. And that would be probably a branding question in terms of value proposition, target audience, as well as the human elements that you might need to put in your content that would make it easier for people to really connect with you and follow everything you're doing, which would be like Primal Branding, that book or something like that. It's me, Mike D. Tim, why can I not see my watch hours in Creator Studio? It's been broken forever. I'm frustrated. There's a bunch of things that you can't see in your studio that I'm also frustrated about, like separating out non-subscribers from subscribers in your audience retention graphs. Like, I want to see, how does a non-subscriber who's never heard of me before, presumably, I should say, it's not always, they could just click on a homepage because they watched a few other videos and never subscribed. But how does someone who hasn't clicked subscribe and is therefore likely less engaged with my channel think about, what do they think about this video versus someone who is an active subscriber? I want them to be able to separate that again. You could do it in YouTube Analytics Classic. You can't in Studio. And so I use the feedback button in there. And if there's something missing that you guys are like, hey, I really need this, or this would be helpful for me, definitely put it in there. I know who those guys are. They absolutely read every single thing that comes through and they look at all of it, and it really does make a difference. In fact, they reprioritize stuff at YouTube based on the feedback you guys give them, and like they reallocate resources and personnel and everything to make sure that those things that you are calling out get attention when enough people are calling them out. But they do read it all, so that's the direction I would go. I am really looking forward, now I speak about don't use ending language. It's a podcast and a live stream, so I'm going to use ending language, which is, I am really looking forward to hanging out with you guys next week and the next couple of weeks as we talk more about what do we start doing on our channel to start planning a successful 2020. And I'm really looking forward to working with you guys. If you feel like you would love to sit down with me or Lennon or Delana or a strategist on my team and really dive into this stuff with you guys, like we can screen share in those sessions, and we can walk you through all of that data, all those analytics, and help you make some practical like steps in terms of here's how I would recommend you grow this metric. Or if you are trying to have this accomplish this goal on your channel with this audience, then here's how we would move forward. And we want you guys to walk away from those 1 hour sessions with hopefully pages of notes and a lot of valuable insights, not just in terms of general levels that we've been talking about here, but on very specific detailed level. So if you would like to do that, you can go to go to videocreators.com/consulting, or you can click a link in the show notes or the description here. We'd love to dive in with you guys and really help you guys set up your channel for 2020 and help you guys take the steps that you need. So hopefully we'll get to see you, meet you sometime soon. And in the meantime, guys, thanks for hanging out, and I will see you guys. And then, and thank you, Laura, again, for first time moderating. She did great and getting those questions from me. So thank you, Lara, from Overall Buddies. Really appreciate you pitching in here today. And thank you so much. So I'm looking forward to hang out with you guys again next week for another Video Creators Podcast episode. See you guys then. Bye.